Hi friends, Jen here, single mom, artist, and entrepreneur, and this channel is all about building a life that you love. Now, today's content is going to be a little different than what I normally produce. Today, I'm here to talk about how I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I haven't even cut a piece of glass in nearly 3 weeks. I'm struggling. I'm angry. I'm angry and I'm upset and I'm scared. For those of you who are watching who are outside of the United States, you need to know that many of us here, Americans here in the States, are just as baffled by what's happening in our government as you are. And for those of you here in the States who are feeling the same way as me, I don't know how we're going to get through this. I really don't. I'm worried. I'm really, really worried. These tariffs are crashing our economy. All this tariff talk, all this up and down on this tariff thing, it is screwing our economy. People are not coming here as tourists. And I don't blame them. Honestly, if you don't live in the United States, I wouldn't travel here right now. People are being detained at the border unjustly. And some of them are probably never going to get to go back home. So yeah, if you don't live here, I wouldn't come here right now. I wouldn't. And I don't blame you. Yeah, there are so many reasons that I'm worried. And I'm going to touch on just a couple of them. The biggest and most upsetting one happened yesterday. By the time you see this video, it will have been weeks probably. But RFK Jr., who has been appointed our Secretary of the Department of Health, despite the fact that he has zero expertise in medicine, made a speech yesterday. And in that speech, he talked about people with autism. And he declared that they would never hold jobs and they would never pay taxes. That was the first thing he said. How glaringly obvious is that? They would never pay taxes or hold jobs or get married, and many of them would never even be able to play baseball. All of which is wholly false and inaccurate, right? And I see this as a lead up to the next line of cuts, which are probably going to be the Medicaid waiver. Medicaid waiver, if you're not familiar with it, is a program here in the United States for kids on the spectrum or kids with learning disabilities and a couple of other things. It's a program for kids that need additional support. And it pays for a bunch of different kinds of therapies: speech therapy, occupational therapy, behavior therapy, recreational therapy, music therapy. Those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. It pays for a lot of different kinds of therapies, and you get a caseworker, and that caseworker sits down with the parents and they decide together what therapies are going to best benefit that child based on what that child's needs are. It's an amazing program. It's no cost to the parents, and it allows that child to get the supports they need to be able to grow up and function fully in society. So it's about helping them to learn to cope in a world that is not made for them and not made for the way that their brains function. That's it. That's what the program is for. And my guess is that they're getting ready to announce giant cuts to that, because I can't see any other reason why we would make these super untrue and harsh claims about people with autism if we aren't getting ready to eliminate a ton of funding to help those people. The Department of Education is in the process of being eliminated by our government currently. The Department of Education, along with other things, determines funding for states to go to state high schools and element K through 12 schooling. It also helps with funding for state scholarship programs. And then, of course, there are federal scholarship and grant programs as well. My daughter's a freshman in college, and she currently receives a federal scholarship. No, I take that back. She receives a state scholarship and a federal grant on top of her academic scholarships. Now, those state and federal programs may not exist next year. We don't know. They may not exist next year. And if they don't, I can't afford to send her back to the school that she's fallen in love with and that she's thriving at. She's finishing her freshman year with an A average. And she's worked so hard for that, and she deserves to get to stay there. And we don't know if she's going to get to. She might not. We might not be able to afford to send her. And the worst part is a state school without those same, she's at a private university right now, but even a state school without those same grants and all, we still can't afford to send her because it's still a giant amount of money out of pocket. The university she's at currently is about $43,000 a year. They are raising tuition next year. We got a letter recently about it. So our out of pocket after all of her scholarships and financial aid is about, this year was about $8,000. Next year, I expect our out of pocket, even with all of those scholarships and all, to be $10,000 to $13,000 because of the bump in tuition. That said, and some other things are going to be more expensive next year as well. That said, if I were to send her to a state school, it's still going to cost that much out of pocket. Because without those, it's still that much. And so I'm worried for both of my children. I'm worried for my business because all these tariffs are wreaking havoc. They're wreaking havoc on small businesses. Bigger businesses are much more able to absorb all these astronomical increases in costs. And small businesses aren't. We just aren't designed to absorb them. So I don't know what the future looks like right now. And I'm scared. I'm scared and I'm overwhelmed and I'm struggling. So if you've made it this far, I just want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. If you're here in the United States and you feel the same way, you are not alone. You are not alone. I'm right here with you. Let's support each other in any way that we can. If you're not here in the States, I would love for you to like, subscribe, comment. I would love your support. It would mean the world. Just know that many of us are not in support of this administration. I have so many other words, but they're not nice. And I'm trying not to be angry right now. I'm trying to be as reserved as possible when talking about this whole subject. I promise next week we'll be back to my regular kind of content, but I really needed to talk about how I'm feeling right now. And I needed other creators here in the States to know they're not alone. And I needed those of you who are outside of the States to know that we need your support. We need your support. It matters. We appreciate you. Yeah, I think that's all for today. I'm overwhelmed, but I'm going to try to pull through. I'm going to spend today changing my mindset, changing my thinking, turning off the news, and trying to find some creative juice again, because that's what I need. I'm looking forward to the rest of market season being so incredibly busy that I don't have time to pay attention to all the negative crap that is happening around me, and maybe put some of those worries aside for at least a little while. But we'll see. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you, and I will see you next week.